Destiny 2 has a lot of weapons for players to go and grind for, and while they may seem great, a vast majority of them are decent or worse, and a good chunk of the great and S tier weapons are locked behind paywalls. Thankfully, there are a lot of great weapons you can still get as a new or free-to-play player. Today, I put together a small list of weapons to go and get if any of the aforementioned terms apply to you. This list will be for PvE only, so if you'd be interested in a PvP list, drop a comment and I'll get working on it. Let's start off the list with the new Vanguard Ops SMG, the Prolonged Engagement. This 900 RPM SMG made its debut into Destiny 2 this season, and it came loaded with amazing rolls. Thanks to it dropping from the Vanguard Ops playlist, any and every player has access to this SMG. When it comes down to perks to grind for on this weapon, definitely look out for Subsistence and Frenzy for great ad clear. Overall, a great SMG that you should get. The next legendary weapon I want to cover is one that you get early on in the opening quest and is one that even veteran players can and should get. That weapon is none other than the Night Watch. Night Watch is a 200 RPM scout rifle, which is my favorite archetype of scouts, as they feel the most smooth and enjoyable to use. I would also highly recommend keeping this roll of this weapon, as besides this quest, it can only be obtained by Xur if he sells it during a weekend that is available. If you did delete it, then you should be able to get it back by redoing the quest on a second character. If you don't get it on a second character or for some reason decided to delete it 3 times, then you're out of luck, so you have to keep it. The next weapon I'm going to include is the Funnelweb SMG. The Funnelweb has been an SMG that has been popular ever since it was released with the Witch Queen earlier this year, and for good reason. First of all, the SMG has a clean aesthetic and has a model similar to the Recluse, which many Destiny players know is a classic SMG. Furthermore, this SMG has some great perks for ad clearing by having Subsistence and Frenzy, and if Subsistence isn't your cup of tea, then you can trade it out for Perpetual Motion. The only downside for this SMG is that it is a world drop, so you'll have a harder time farming for it compared to the other SMG that I mentioned, since that one comes from strikes. However, if you can't get your hands on this weapon, then you will not be disappointed. The next weapon we have is the first and only weapon I'm going to recommend in this video to come from a raid, and that weapon is the Zaouli's Bane hand cannon. This hand cannon drops from the King's Fall raid, which is free to play for all players and comes loaded with amazing perks. For casual content like dungeons and raids, I'd recommend going for Explosive Payload in Column 3 and Incandescent in Column 4, as this will turn this weapon into an ad-killing machine. It will also synergize great with solar builds, so that's another thing to look forward to. If you want to roll for higher end content, then replace Incandescent with One for All for a 35% damage buff for 10 seconds when you hit 3 separate targets with 1 bullet. If you need a guide for how to beat this raid, then be sure to check out my King's Fall guide, which is linked in the description below. Overall, a fantastic hand cannon, especially for newer players. Let's now get into some of the weapons from Dares of Eternity. Starting that off, we have the BxR-55 Battler. The Halo battle rifle made its way into Destiny 2 with the anniversary update last year. Since its introduction, it has been one of the best pulse rifles for PvE content. This pulse rifle drops from the Dares of Eternity activity and from Xur in the Treasure Hoard, so it'll definitely be worth grinding a bunch. For perks, I'd recommend grinding for Perpetual Motion or Demolitionist in Column 3 and Incandescent in Column 4. Regardless of which perk you pick up for Column 3, you'll have a monster of a pulse rifle for PvE content. Continuing the Dares of Eternity segment, the next suggestions are the Pardon Our Dust and Ignition Code. Pardon Our Dust, similar to the BxR, was introduced into Destiny 2 back in December of 2021 and is notable thanks to its access to Blinding Grenades, which is a great perk for in-game content since it allows you to disorient an enemy that is a major and lower for 5 seconds. Having access to Blinding Grenades is massive and can be the decider in a life or death situation. Anyways, I'm also recommending Pardon Our Dust since it is, as of the recording of this video, the only craftable blinding grenade launcher, which is insane to have. Pair the blinding grenades with auto-loading holster and foldable weapon, you'll be sitting pretty. Now, while I have a lot of good things to say about that grenade launcher, my personal favorite legendary grenade launcher goes to the Ignition Code. It can now drop from a certain loot pool week in Dares. I've linked to his Google spreadsheet down below containing all the loot pools, what they drop, and when they are going to be available, so definitely keep that in mind. Anyways, if you get an Ignition Code to drop, grind for blinding grenades and slide shot and you'll be golden. Regardless of which one you pick, try to get your hands on one of these two. Let's go to the next weapon and you thought we were done talking about Dares of Eternity weapons? Well, you would be wrong, because the next weapon pairing we are talking about is the Half-Truths and the Other Half. This is yet another weapon that comes from Dares of Eternity and Xur in the Treasure Hoard. And for the Halo fans out there, yes, this is the Energy Sword. Now, frequent viewers of the channel will probably be confused as to why I am recommending this sword to newer players, as I have a use for this sword that newer players won't know about. Half-Truths can be a great sword for ad clearing and for fast legend lost sector farms in case we ever see swords get mods again in the future, and the other half is just a great sword for boss DPS. Both swords are also pretty solid in PvP, but as the title of this video shows, that's not an area of the game we are visiting today. Now the reason I use this sword is because it has access to a perk called Eager Edge. The perk pays homage to the energy sword lunge glitch back in Halo 2, but the use in Destiny is that it lets you lunge at an enemy from a far distance immediately after you pull the sword out. However, there is a movement tech linked to this perk. I won't cover what those techniques are, but I'll throw them on screen to show them off. For newer players, don't worry about the movement tech for now. The actual utility of the swords lies in their effectiveness towards adds and bosses, so go grind them for that. Fun fact to wrap this section up, these two swords are also craftable, so there's another reason to go get them. Also, if you need a refresher or a quick guide on how to farm the Dares of Eternity activity, check the link in the description below. The next weapon is arguably one of the best damage dealers in the meta right now, and that is the Taipan 4FR. The Taipan is a legendary linear fusion rifle that comes equipped with some amazing perks for both solo and group endgame PvE content. This is a world drop weapon, but you can actually get this weapon's pattern through a Foundry quest at the Crafting Relic. You can access the Crafting Relic by clicking on 7th Stone Road and moving the map towards the left side until you see the Crafting Relic. Getting this weapon's pattern is recommended since you can then craft it and get your preferred role. Speaking of roles, they vary depending on what kind of player you are. If you're a solo player, then go for Triple Tap and Focus Fury for a damage bonus that can be procced without teammates. If you have a group to play with, then be sure to replace Focus Fury with Firing Line, as that'll grant you a bonus crit damage when around 2 or more fire team members. Overall, this is a great weapon and more than worthy of the time it takes to get it. So far, we've covered 8 different legendary weapons, so let's now cover some exotic weapons. Exotic weapons are the most popular weapon rarity since they are typically really good. The major downside for players, however, is that most of the good exotics are locked behind paywalls, but there are a few exotics that are free that are great. To kick it off, we have the Sleeper Simulant. This exotic hasn't had much of the spotlight thanks to other linears taking the spotlight, but don't let that make you think this isn't a good weapon. It is great for boss DPS, so if you choose not to craft Taipan or you don't have a good heavy for boss DPS overall, then get Sleeper. It does come from the exotic kiosk in the tower, so get the materials needed and buy it. Trust me, you won't regret it. The second exotic and sort of last weapon I wanted to cover on this list is the Merciless. Merciless has been receiving more love this season and it has become a more popular option for DPS. While it isn't the #1 option for DPS, it still puts out an insane amount of damage and should not be overlooked at all. It drops from exotic engrams, so if you don't have it, then you can use legendary shards to buy 1 a week from Xur for a chance added, or you can wait until Xur sells it to buy it. Otherwise, you just need to hope you get one. Once you get it though, you will not be disappointed. Now the final weapon I wanted to add is more of an honorable mention because while it's no longer available to free-to-play players, it was for a week. Allow me to explain. The weapon I'm going to talk about is the Gjallarhorn, and the reason I said it was available for a week is because when Bungie did their collaboration with Epic Games back in August of this year, they gave players who claimed Destiny 2 during its Epic Games launch week the 30th anniversary pack for free, and that includes Gjallarhorn. So if you downloaded Destiny 2 through the Epic Games launcher during the time period of August 23rd, 2022 to August 30th, 2022, you should have access to its quest. If you're unsure as to whether or not you own it, then go in game, select the director option, then click Cosmodrome, then move your mouse cursor to the Grasp of Avarice dungeon and see if it says requires Destiny 2 30th anniversary pack. If it does not say that, then you have access to it, and that means you need to complete the quest immediately, as this is the best exotic in the game. See my Gjallarhorn quest guide video for help. Most definitely worth it. Well, that'll wrap up this video. If you found this video useful, then consider dropping a like and subscribing for more Destiny 2 content dropping every week. If you have any Destiny 2 related questions, then feel free to drop a comment or stop by my streams that happen right here on YouTube and I'll be glad to help. Finally, follow me over on my social media pages linked in the description below. With that being said, I'm SniperKH and I'm out for the rest of 2022. As always, good luck with gaming.